So today I'm going to be looking at the three main astrological reasons why the Epstein emails were released on November 12th at about 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time. That release chart has deep insights into the charts of Trump. There's a planetary war in the sky. The sign of Scorpio is very prominent, Mars, Mercury, and also the USA chart. These are the big three reasons, and I'm going to analyze those three reasons in this video. I'm also going to make big predictions about what I think is ahead for President Trump. You see, there's a certain karmic reckoning for Trump for sure, which just means that his past coming out into the present, these disclosures, again, this is very Scorpio-like, and we're going to be cycling through all of these things and looking at the relationship to the new moon in Scorpio that happened on the 19th of November and going through all of this today. So again, this is a very transformative event for everyone in the world. And again, these disclosures that have come out about Epstein's emails, not just with Trump, but with other people, it's rocking and, overtaking a lot of public figures, Guy Larry Summers, and a bunch more. So, but there's a big focus, of course, on Trump, because what's been happening is he's been trying to prevent the disclosure and the release of all the documents, all the emails, the quote Epstein files. This isn't the Epstein files. These are just emails. And so it's going to blow the lid off of a lot of things that have been happening behind the scenes recently. I mean, Trump had no choice but to come out and say, the Republicans need to vote to release all the files after doing everything he, could to hold them back. So we can see here that the release chart, and by the way, he did that because he knows he's sunk now, that his capacity to hold them back is now finished. So he's like, okay, we need to release them all. Well, you don't have any choice. You see this gigantic rift with Marjorie Taylor Greene and other, MAGA loyalists. So this isn't going to go away anytime soon. So this release chart was November 12th, about 8:30 a.m. This is the most authoritative time that I could get. This is when it started hitting the, that's 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. That's when it started hitting the, news outlets. That's when it started to become publicized. And we could see here a blow up of that chart. And I have these arrows pointing to different aspects of how that transit at that time relates to the USA chart, to just what was happening in the sky, this planetary war between Mars and Mercury. You can see Mercury was going retrograde right over Mars. I mean, now they're in Scorpio. Scorpio is the sign of disclosures and secrets and reckoning. And again, where your vulnerabilities are there, and those vulnerabilities can be exposed. We're going to talk about this more specifically when we start looking at Trump's chart as well. But even just the general theme in the sky was Mars, Mercury, and Scorpio. Mercury going retrograde, reversing and disclosing things like email, total Mercury thing, communication, hidden communication, hidden emails is definitely Scorpio, hidden secretive things that will make us vulnerable, that we're vulnerable about, that we don't want coming out. I don't want anyone to see that. Well, Mercury goes retrograde, goes over Mars, and it comes out. Now, again, I'm looking at it from Trump's perspective. Trump is, I don't want that to come out. Everyone else is, I want to see it, right? So we have to keep this in perspective, right? So again, from everyone else's point of view, it's like Mercury retrograde is reversing this concerted effort to conceal all of this, right? Mars goes into Scorpio. Again, Mars is powerful in Scorpio. So he's going to destroy that campaign of secrecy. Mars is like, no. And so he's there blowing up and correcting and fighting the right battle. In this context, again, we can see this publicly, right? To go out and take on this weakness. And so what you see is the courage of all of these people that have been courageously trying to bring this out for months. And that includes the courage of people like Marjorie Greene and Boebert and these Republicans who now have the courage to come out and say, I don't care if you're the leader of our party and this almost religious figure to a lot of people, I have the courage to stand up and say, no, I'm sorry, but I can't abide this. This pedophile ring that went on for decades needs to come out. If you're in it, then I guess that's just going to be what happens. But if you're in it, he's all over it. He's mentioned more than anyone else. So again, you see him going, no. Everybody else going, yes. So Mercury retrograde is reversing the concealment, right? And you see that aspect of the event chart. This is the event chart. Exact. Mars was 1138. Mercury was 1159. Like it had just gone, or it was just about to go directly over that Mars. And the ascendant at that time, again, this is early Eastern time, was almost the same exact degree as the USA chart, but understand the ascendant moves very fast. And then on Trump's chart, again, this moon is at 1 degree of Leo, and Jupiter is at less than 1 degree of Cancer. So let's move forward and take a look at his chart. You see with his chart here, he has the ascendant and Mars at less than 6 degrees of Leo, and he's got Saturn at less than 1 degree of Cancer. So if we blow this up, again, remember that moon was at 150 Magha in Leo. You see his ascendant 6 degrees and his Mars 3 degrees, but understand the moon moves very fast. So that day, as this was being disclosed, the moon went over his ascendant and his Mars. So the moon went right over those things that day. And Jupiter was going retrograde over his Saturn. Now again, Jupiter was at 0.55 and it was moving backwards. His Saturn is at 042. So Jupiter was going back, like it was exact retrograde back over his Saturn in the 12th house. His 12th house is, I've talked about it many times. This shows his cheating with women and his secrecy around relationships and women and cheating and all that. It's the 12th house of secrets. He's got Saturn, the 7th house ruler, in the 12th, and Venus, the Karaka of relationships. Both of his relationship factors are in the 12th house of secrets. Now, whether that's cheating secrets or whatever, but it shows we already know the history. Divorce, loss because of cheating, dishonesty. And again, Jupiter was right on that Saturn in the 12th house. Again, Jupiter is justice, teaching, wisdom, inspiration. For him, it's not inspiring. For the rest of us, it's like, okay, we're seeing this. And it's reversing. It's reversing the concealment and the effort to hide this as it goes over his Saturn. Again, this is why I said karmic reckoning. Again, Saturn isn't just karma. All of it is karma. But for him, particularly, the magnification of the past as it magnifies over time is the big thing. Now, I'm going to also talk about what happens with Trump and his presidency and how he survives this. We'll come back to this a little later because we also have Ketu is going through his first house. It's not there yet, or it's not right exact on his planets, but it's coming. Now, when we look at the USA chart, and this is my rectified USA chart, rectified from the chart in hand of Ebenezer Sibley, the English astrologer at the time. Again, it was since corrected by a Vedic astrologer and moved about an hour and a half forward, which doesn't really make any sense. USA has a Scorpio ascendant, as I rectified a couple years ago. Late Scorpio, about 28 degrees, makes very good sense. And, with the dashas and all of that. So again, and every time I've done it, this kind of thing bears out, right? So we just saw that the ascendant here at this moment in time the USA chart is also happening with this new moon in Scorpio on November 19th, right? So this Scorpio ascendant lines up perfectly with this new moon in Scorpio that's happening on Wednesday. So again, by the time of Wednesday, we're going to have voted and disclosed. The Epstein files will have come out, excuse me, by that time. So again, when we go back to this chart, let me just see it here so you can see it larger. The one that I have pointed as USA chart is the ascendant at 23 degrees. So that was about, about that 8:30 in the morning. That was the ascendant, was almost exactly on the USA chart. And again, remember, the ascendant moves very fast. So it was, even if it wasn't that exact moment, it was as this stuff was getting released and the Earth was turning Eastern Standard Time, it was lining up almost exactly with the USA chart. And again, all this Scorpio energy is very important, not just being shown in things like that, and these disclosures and this difficulty and stress, but also as it leads into the other big shifts that are happening right now with the Jupiter retrograde, Saturn retrograde. I made a free report on this Scorpio energy, Jupiter going retrograde from Cancer to Gemini, and also Saturn in Pisces. It has a lot to do with the rest of 2025. If you want me to look at your chart and analyze how these things will affect you, you can do that. I'll have a link below the video. Yeah, so you can go ahead and at least download that free report where I talk about the rest of 2025 with Mars going through Scorpio, Jupiter retrograde in Cancer, Saturn retrograde, and then moving direct again. But again, this Scorpio theme is very big right now, and you can see how the whole U.S. is being affected by this disclosure, right? This is a new shift in USA politics, culture, because the sitting president it has already been incredibly implicated in the association with the most notorious child sex ring we've ever seen. I'm not even going and delving into that subject, but the conspirator, or his co-conspirator, Ghislaine Maxwell, after being interviewed by Trump's personal lawyer and deputy attorney general, was moved to a resort-like prison after saying, oh, Trump did nothing, or he's not anywhere. We've already seen her lies revealed where she's interacting with Epstein saying, yeah, Trump knows about all of it and whatever. Anyway, I'm not even getting into the politics of it. If you care, then you already know. But I'm talking about the astrology part. And the thing to also understand that I would be saying and talking about is how this is going to affect Trump ultimately. Now, again, we already see a huge fracture in his, not just popularity, but his standing within his party. And I think it's going to be harder and harder to maintain really much of any stature after this. His base has forgiven all kinds of things. This is tough. We can see, though, we can track astrology, and by the time we get to next June, for example, that Ketu, which we saw here, right, that Ketu is now 21 in the sky. And at the time of the disclosure, as we talked about, the moon was 1 degree, 150, and Jupiter was less than 1 degree, which hit his chart at those sensitive points. But then we spiral forward, or we advance forward, and we see where Ketu is going. Ketu, by the time we get to the middle of June next year, Ketu is 8 degrees. It's within a couple degrees of his ascendant and Mars. And so Ketu is just moving toward his ascendant and his Mars. And so again, we can track Ketu as time moving forward. And Ketu is like the big eraser. When Ketu goes over things, it resets, recalibrates, can tend to erase identity and all kinds of stuff like that. So I predict that by June of next year, again, he will have lost a lot of credibility, if not perhaps even be out of office. It's not unlikely to think that this could lead to an impeachment, even within his own party, because his own party is going to defect to get those documents released. The only reason his party hasn't abandoned him already is because of his voters. But once his voters start to also realize that this is just god awful, and they have a replacement in the wings, Vance. So I think it's very possible that this Scorpio new moon, November 19th, is going to be, again, this is New moon in Scorpio right on the ascendant of the USA chart. USA is a Scorpio nation about, again, change, transformation, destruction, battling, war, secrets, domination. That's the chart of the USA, and this new moon is happening right on it. Again, whether this disclosure of Trump would be happening or not, we'd still be having the new moon on the USA ascendant. And now we're seeing exactly what it's doing. It coincides with the disclosure of this and the current leader being revealed and exposed as at least having decades-long association with the most notorious sex criminal. And they're going to get probing into this stuff with Ghislaine Maxwell and what was his lawyer doing. Again, I'm not even getting into all that stuff here. If you already know, then you already know. If you don't, then you probably hate the fact that I'm talking about any of this. But hey, sorry. But this is... to think that this is the end of something is ridiculous. Releasing all those files is just going to be the beginning. And there's a reason Trump has not wanted it to come out. And it's not because he's exonerated and it's Democratic hoax. That ain't the reason. So this is remarkable transit and a remarkable case study. And again, these are things based on clear Vedic astrology teaching that anyone can learn, but you have to focus on it. You have to really concentrate and learn the stuff. But it's not that hard. And, you know, I have a lot of classes that can help. If you're interested in that, then that would be good as well. If you want to take your understanding of life and Vedic astrology to the next level, then check out the crazy discount I have on 3 very popular classes. First, you get the Yoga and Vedic Astrology Masterclass, a full 6-hour weekend seminar course that I taught on Vedic principles. Second is Quantum Vedic Astrology, where we connect quantum physics, neuroscience, and modern psychology to ancient yogic wisdom. And third is Spiritual Astrology, where we dive into the qualities of the nakshatras, distant stars. It's a rare chance to get this entire bundle at a massive discount, so check it out.